Hi, welcome to the Blitz Online edition. I'm Josh, with me is Fong and Colin. This week we'll talk about the games from Week 4 and get into Week 5's action that's coming up tonight. First off, we didn't have anything nearly as interesting as last week with the delayed games and the Lightning. In fact, most of these games just kind of went by the books. We didn't learn all that much in Week 4.
I'll tell you what, the one thing we learned is Troy needs to hold on to the ball. That is the one thing we absolutely learned. 4 fumbles absolutely killed him last week in the loss to Springfield.
Another thing we learned is that Covington is the real deal. The game we thought was going to be a showdown with Bradford turned ugly and fast. 28 points in the first quarter, and they just went from there. 55 to 6, 56 to 6.
56 to 6. And other than that, we learned a lot of teams are who we thought they were. They were really good. Tip and Milton and Miami East, and we've got a couple of big showdowns coming up tonight. First off, let's get back to the Troy-Springfield game, where Troy's been in every game they've played so far this season. They just, they figured out how to win one close game. They've dropped 2 of them so far.
They're 2 plays away from being undefeated and 4-0 right now, and I think that's got to be driving the coaching staff nuts for sure.
And another thing, losing their quarterback Matt Barr is definitely going to hurt them in the long run. They got Joe Benson stepping in, but Barr up to this point has been pretty good. 24 completions to 43 incompletions and over 200 yards. So it's going to be a big loss for him.
Of course, we don't know how long he'll be out for, though. It could just be this week. It could be a while, but we'll see what happens with that. Covington versus Bradford, as Colin said earlier, was not the showdown we expected. Covington marched down the field and scored first, and James Cannon answered right back with a 69-yard touchdown run, but right after that, Covington answered with a long touchdown of its own, forced 2 fumbles, or forced 2 turnovers, that is, a fumble and an interception, and scored on the first play right after each, and that was just, and then their defense just took over.
Covington's really playing so well right now. They've still got Tri-County North and they've still got Miami East, but I think you're going to have a tough time finding anybody who can keep up with Covington.
And I thought Bradford was going to be a team that would put up some points against Covington, but that did not happen. And their defense, like I said before, like their entire team, is the real deal this year.
Someone is going to have to find a way to hurt Covington's defense to even make a dent in them. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot of these 50 to single-digit games with them. And another team that's putting up 40, 50 points versus single digits is Tip. Tippecanoe hammered Indian Lake 47 to 7, and again, their defense is just too good. Their offense moves the ball, and even though Indian Lake was able to move the ball more than other teams have been, still Tip just shut them down once again. And big plays on special teams and defense, and there's just nobody has an answer for Tip right now.
So there's one team left on their schedule that can even stay close to Tippecanoe, and that's Kenton Ridge. And I'm not even sure they can even keep it close. Tippecanoe, I really think they're just going to roll through the rest of the regular season. They really are that good.
Yeah, what their defense has done through the first 4 weeks of the season, 14 points, that's ridiculous. I don't care who you're playing. Tip's going to be looking poised to do a playoff run at the end of the season.
And then we've also got Milton Union, who again played a close game in the first half and then took over in the second half. We expected them to be a little angry after Tip shut them out the previous week, but Bellbrook just didn't have an answer again, and Tyler Brown, 5 touchdowns, a kick return, an interception return, 40 to 28. Milton Union won this one going away in the second half.
Which is kind of what we thought they were going to do. I think the fact it was a little bit closer in the first half surprised some people, but I think we all knew eventually they were going to pull away.
Yeah, and once again, Milton was able to show their resiliency. This is their second kind of come from behind win. Their defense really took over late in that game to help them pull it out.
We also got Miami East beating Mississinawa Valley 45 to 6. This was no surprise at all. We knew Miami East was just going to be fine-tuning some things going into its next 4 games, which are all against the top 4 teams in the CCC.
I think Covington, Miami East, you're looking at the cross-county conference championship game right there. Those, to me, they've really separated themselves as being the 2 best teams in the conference.
But at the same time, Miami East cannot look ahead. They got a tough Bethel team who's played some teams. Pretty tough this year, considering they barely lost to Bradford 26-13. They pretty much went toe-to-toe with them that whole game. And even last week against Tri-County North, the CCC runner-up from last year, gave them a pretty good game. So Miami East's got to focus 1 week at a time.
Yep, just as Colin mentioned, Tri-County North, we have 8-2 playoff team from last season, and Bethel, that 55-0 game against Covington, I just think we can't measure anybody by what they do against Covington, because Covington's going to do that to a lot of people. Bethel hung with Tri-County North. It was 14-7 most of the game, and then the final was 21-7. Kevin Finfrock's got a tough defensive team to hold Tri-County North the way they did.
Which we knew was going to happen. I think Bethel is a team that's going to keep getting better and better as the season goes along because they have the coaching. But I still think they're a couple years away. They've got to get the personnel and everything in place before they can really be a contender in the cross-county conference.
Yeah, just going off that, they got a lot of young skill position players right now, and I think in the long run they'll be a lot better down the road.
We also had a couple of quick games. Beaver Creek and Piqua, 29-21. Beaver Creek came out. That was their first win of the season, was it? Or
no, that was Beaver Creek's second win of the season. Yeah, I think that one took a little bit of people by surprise. Not so much necessarily that they won, because even the games they had lost, they had been right there and played a lot of teams tough. But I think it was a little surprising to see them put up 29 points on Piqua.
And then another kind of not surprise game, Fort Loramie, another playoff team from last season, taking Lehman down 35-0.
Lehman plays an incredibly tough schedule. I don't necessarily think the fact that they're 1-3 speaks a whole lot to how that Lehman's struggling as much as they're just struggling against some really good teams.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's not easy going against some of the teams they're playing. Fort Loramie was a playoff team last year. Who else they played so far this year?
Minster was always tough.
Year. I mean,
Anna's always tough.
Yeah, playing those teams when you're kind of rebuilding is that's tough.
And this week for our segment, we're talking about Tippecanoe's defensive line, the tandem of Alex Demers, Christian Carlson, and Jacob Cox. The way Coach Charlie Berkbacher refers to them as the TNT, the tackle, nose guard, and tackle. But I kind of like the nickname TNT because these guys have been blowing up opposing offensive lines and stuffing the run game. Probably the tandem's finest moment came in the game against Milton Union, a 27-0 shutout, where they gave up 123 yards of total offense and only 63 of those on the ground to a team that has been averaging 300 rushing yards a game, and probably would be averaging a lot more than that had they not played Tip. All told, Tippecanoe is giving up 117.8 yards per game this season and has only given up a grand total of 276 rushing yards, much thanks to these three guys.
Pride. I mean, we just come out every game with a fire in our hearts, and it's not us three that do it. It's a team effort. Our defense comes out on fire, and we just hit hard, we hit low, hit first, and we fly to the ball. I mean, that's what we practice: speed, and we get to the ball.
Well, I think we're really competing well as a team, pushing each other in practice and setting goals that are enabling us to give us the fire to succeed on the field.
They're kind of as they go, is kind of going to be how our defense goes. Because if those three guys move, and that's what they've done here in the first 4 ball games, those guys have moved and have made some plays, have gotten in on tackles, and are just a lot more active. And the more active they become, the better we become defensively.
Feels good to know that teams are going to be aiming for us, that it's going to be a game every week.
All right, let's talk about tonight's games. We've got Troy at Miamisburg. They may come to miss the days of Ferguson Field, going to Miamisburg and playing there. Matchup of 2-2 teams, and this one could be a very telling game.
I think it's too early in the season to say this is a must-win game. But it almost is a must-win game. Troy's got a stretch here where they really need to get some momentum going into the part of the season where they play Butler and Trotwood and Piqua, which will essentially determine a Greater Western Ohio Conference North Division champion. I think Troy rebounds from last week. The last time they faced this much adversity, they rebounded and beat Springfield Shawnee 41-14. I think they'll do it again. I think this is a tough group of kids. They're mentally resilient, and I think they'll come back and they'll beat Miamisburg.
Yeah, Troy they've definitely had an up and down season. I think that just comes along with the growing pains of a young team. It's going to be interesting this week. I think the running back core is really going to need to step up with Matt Barr's absence. But I don't see why they can't win this game. Equally, Miamisburg's a 2-2 team. I think Troy will probably get the job done this week.
And also, those 2 wins for Miamisburg have come against smaller schools, and their most recent loss, a 27-6 one to Butler. This game could be a little bit of a preview of how the GWalk North is going to shape up, especially with that common opponent, seeing how Troy can handle somebody that Butler beat so soundly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We've got a couple of we've talked at length about Tip and how strong they are. They're traveling to Ben Logan this week, and I do not see Ben Logan coming close.
The toughest part about this game is going to be the hour bus trip. After that, if they can survive the bus trip to Ben Logan, Tip Canoe is going to be just fine. They're going to roll in this one.
Yeah, I think Tip rolls too. Leading defense in the Miami County right now. Second offense to Covington in the Miami County. Ben Logan's coming off a week where they just gave up 48 points. I think Tip rolls Ben Logan pretty easily.
And we've got Milton Union returning home to face Madison. This is a matchup of 3-1 teams. This is the point in the season where these guys opened up SWBL Buckeye League play last year, and they were both 3-1. Milton Union won that through 35-19. I don't see it being much different this season.
The thing to keep in mind is Madison is 3-1, but their combined record of the teams they faced is 3-13. They haven't played anybody, certainly nobody the caliber of what Milton Union's played. Milton Union should have no trouble in this one.
I'm going to piggyback off of what he said since he stole my entire dialogue there. But yeah, I think the strength of schedule is what you got to look at in this situation. Milton's played some pretty good teams early on, and I think they should handle Madison and get off to the right start.
So that research was a birthday present for Mr. Fong.
Happy birthday.
Hey, always a pleasure.
We've got our game of the week, Bethel traveling to Miami East for a CCC matchup, and this game got a lot more interesting when Bethel went toe-to-toe with Tri-County North. I still think Miami East will come away with the win in this one, but it could be a little bit better than we think.
I think it might end up actually being a little bit better than we think, but I think Miami still pulls it out in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, Bethel, their record is deceiving. They played Bradford, who's one of those teams in the CCC who we thought was going to be pretty much one of the contenders. They still are, but they played with them pretty good, and they also played with Tri-County North. And I think Bethel will give East a better game than most people think, but in the long run, I think East wins it.
And speaking of Bradford, they're traveling to Ansonia and facing the Tigers for the second time this season. They fought in the opening week in a non-conference game thanks to some scheduling fun, and Bradford rolled Ansonia then. They're going to roll Ansonia now.
I see no reason why it would be any different this time around. Unless some kids have moved into Ansonia or left Bradford that we don't know about, I don't see any reason why they should be any different this week.
I think it's going to be unanimous roll across the board.
And then we've got Covington going to Tri-County North for a matchup. Again, a couple of teams in a row at the top of the CCC. Covington's already kind of separated themselves, and I think they're going to put some more distance between them and everybody else.
Until someone proves they can keep up with Covington, it's hard to pick against them. And not only pick against them, but pick against them big. I don't see anybody can keep it close right now.
I think what you got to look at here in this matchup is what each team has done against their common opponents. Bethel gave Tri-County North a game, as we already said last week. Covington has pretty much exceeded expectations every game they played in. We thought Bradford was going to give them a game last week. Turned out to be a dud. So I think Covington rolls them, and I think they continue undefeated until they get to playoffs.
We got Pickwood trying to get back on track, but they're facing the current GWalk South. The GWalk South leader, Springboro, and undefeated 4-0, and I think Pickwood's going to struggle in this game again.
People in Springboro have been waiting for this year for a lot of years. When this group of juniors was actually freshmen and sophomores, people could kind of see this is what was coming from these guys. They've got a lot of talent, they've got a lot of speed, they're big, they hit. They've already knocked off Centerville this year. I really think Pickwood's going to struggle against Springboro.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Springboro's offense is just going to be too much for Pickwood's defense to handle this week, and I think Springboro will come away with a pretty easy victory.
And finally, we've got Riverside traveling to Lehman, a matchup of 1-3 teams. Riverside actually just got its first win against Emmanuel Christian. I think Lehman has played far tougher teams than Riverside has had to yet, and I think Lehman is going to come away with this one.
There's a big difference between Emmanuel Christian and Anna and Minster and Fort Laramie, and I think Lehman's going to show it this week. Lehman is probably one of the better 1-3 teams that you'll see all season, and I think they're going to prove it this week.
I think Coach John Greer is going to have Riverside ready to play, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Lehman's going to walk all over him.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us again this week on the Blitz Online edition. I'm Josh. This is Colin and Fong. We'll see you next week.